Another week up, another week down. You know how it goes. What's going on, old man?
Hey, all is well. That's going to end well. You know
Uh,
how it goes.
anyway, anyway, back for another week. We hope you enjoyed the live filming
Yeah,
of the show. What? That was what
that was different.
I
Uh,
told. I
I got some
sat there.
technical difficulties, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
figure it. I can get it
Mm-hmm.
worked out. I
I
get it worked
told you, it's a totally different beast when it's live. I tried to tell you, but people don't want to listen to me. Like I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's okay. It is okay. Oh man, we got.
So, what's the topic? What's the
I'm
topic,
getting ready to
Pat?
get. I'm getting ready to get into
Okay,
that, old man. Like, calm down. You sound like my generation. You need to pump your brakes, okay?
okay. I'll slow it down. I'll slow it down.
Yeah, because we're talking about I guess just baby daddies. I guess would be the
I
best thing to
guess.
put. Best thing
Yeah,
to easiest way to put it.
simplifies it. That
They
simplifies it.
simplified it
Very
for
much.
the people out there
Yeah.
listening. Just talking about baby daddies, and I mean, I guess just I guess it just goes off of basis. Is it more loving or control with baby fathers and the ins and outs of that dynamic? Uh, I guess first off is just wearing a suit versus baggy clothes. I mean, yes, that's more of a perception thing, but I mean, the baggy clothes is more of a thing when you're younger, and as you get older, you try to transition more. Listen to what I'm saying. You transition more into the not necessarily suits, but more of the casual clothing. Um, that the baggy thing is definitely for most people is definitely a phase that you go through because you try to fit in, with your groups in school and things like that. But then as you get to that next stage, you start wearing more casual, like polo shirts when you're out and
You
about.
should.
You should, like I said, you should. I mean, you can wear
Right.
t-shirts and stuff like that, but you're not wearing really doing the whole baggy thing. That kind of phases out for a lot of people.
You you would hope so, but I still see it. I
Yeah,
still see
of course, you still see it, of course, but I mean, I don't. That's just how I look at it. I mean, I got fussed at when I was younger for the
You
baggy
should.
the baggy clothes and everything like that. Of course,
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
it,
Nobody wants to see your underwear.
I mean, you couldn't tell. You couldn't
I
tell.
want to see your underwear.
You couldn't tell me anything. You couldn't tell me anything when I'm younger, and I'm sure it was the same way when you were younger back in the
Well, I never
1750s.
showed my underwear. I never showed my underwear. We kept our
Uh huh.
pantses up.
Right. Yeah.
And
Up to your
one one thing was
nipples. You
different.
kept your pants up to your nipples
No,
like that.
no, no, no. One thing
Right
was
above
we
your
used to
belly
have a
button. Got
crease.
it.
We used to have a crease
Uh
in
huh.
our jeans and in
Mm-hmm.
our clothes. But that's not
Right.
the end now.
Right. Because I'm pretty sure
But
once the rap came out, you guys were doing that because that was around started in your generation, the rap and
Good.
stuff and the
Oh yeah,
rapping. Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. And then you saw, oh, that's
The good
cool.
stuff. The good stuff.
That's
The
hip
good
G.
stuff.
That's hip G. Let
No,
me
it was the
let
good
me
stuff.
let me
It was
bust a
the good
sag so
stuff.
I can be cool.
No, no, it wasn't showing your underwear. You might wear it loose, but
Mm-hmm.
you weren't showing anything. You
Mm-hmm.
had big shirts to cover everything, but now, I mean, God, they're just showing everything, and I don't see the appeal in that. But when I think about saggy, well, baggy, let me put it, baggy breeches and suits or not showing your underwear, I look at it as married or unmarried
Mm-hmm.
as a father. You know, if you're married, you're more responsible. You representing yourself to your kids and your family and to others. So I don't think you'll be walking around with your underwear showing. If you're married, I think it's a certain criteria you're going to have to meet. But if you're not married and you just have kids, and you know the game is open season. You know, you
Mm,
can do whatever you want because you live in single. You
right.
don't have any accountability.
Yeah, I mean that
Like you, Pat.
of me and no accountability. No, I got plenty of accountability. We're not gonna go there. Or
The young bucks, the young
we're
bucks,
not.
Tag, being young, that you don't have that accountability to somebody else in a
To
sense.
somebody else, yes, but you still have a lot of accountability because
That's right. That's right.
that's just another layer. There's a lot of accountability, but to somebody else, yes, I'll give you that. I don't have accountability to somebody else,
That's right.
but accountability to myself, oh yeah, 100%. I got a lot of stuff I got to take care of. So yeah,
That's
you're not going to you're not going to sit there. Yeah, you better clarify.
right. But and then what about the controlling aspect or the controlling behavior of a father? And I'm gonna use the baggy pants and non-baggy pants
Hmm.
scenario with control. How does control look to someone who is single compared to someone who is not?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, most of the relationships that I've seen, they've been pretty much. It's maybe it's just a younger generation, but they've been more like jokes, like I'm cracking jokes, like we make fun of each
Right.
other, kind of thing. But when
Yeah.
it comes down to it, yes, of course, the man usually makes the decision when it's like an important decision. It's going to go to the man in that relationship. Like there's been a couple of other videos, and I think we touched on this maybe in our
Mhm.
control video,
Yes.
uh, where the young lady didn't let the dad like bring his kid a happy meal.
That's right. That's right.
That was like the last. That's usually the videos I see. I don't see a whole lot of videos where the baby father is trying to be controlling, or maybe it's just my YouTube algorithm that isn't like bringing that up. But usually, if I click on one thing about that, it'll bring up like a whole bunch of other topics.
Right.
But I don't really see a whole lot of videos on that, so I can't really speak on the controlling behavior aspect because once again, everything I've seen has been like the playful relationships and not everybody really trying to be controlling for the most part. I'm just trying to go off of memory. Maybe if there's something I can think of where one of my friends was trying to be controlling. Well, not even really one of my friends, uh, but yeah, no, a lot of the relationships is just like we're done. They stop talking, like, and nobody that I know really had any children.
But tag, I just and that's very important what you're saying that the children brings on the control
Mm,
because before that you're like you don't really see that you don't really in a relationship usually is no control factors there.
right,
It's usually 50-50. When there's no kids involved. When a kid gets involved, when you have a kid, married or not, more so when you're not married, control comes into play. And the control goes to the mother.
right,
That they have the leverage. Society gives them the leverage. The government gives them the leverage. You are an outsider now. If you're in a relationship, you're single, nobody has kids, everything, you're equal. Even in marriage, you're pretty much equal unless you got finances. Financially, you might not be equal, but when a kid gets involved, the pendulum shifts.
right. Yeah, and that's understandable because that's been the way it has been for a long time. Uh, but yeah, that's just something I can't really speak on as far as because there's nobody that I know that has kids that have been separated, so I haven't been exposed to that kind of dynamic. I guess maybe when I get older, maybe people hopefully they don't, but if they get divorced or something like that, and then they have kids, maybe then I'll be able to see more things like that. But right now it's just like that honeymoon phase for a lot of relationships that I know that are out there. People are just now getting married. They just now had a child that, they just had a child that's maybe like 1 years old, 2 years old, something like that. So I'm hoping that they stay together for a long time, but I'm saying maybe down the road, they may end up going their separate ways, which may lead to
You,
some of that
Tech,
experience.
but what you're saying, you're very fortunate because I know the opposite. I know more people who have kids that are not married.
Mm,
And that's the importance of marriage. That's why it's so important to be married and have kids than not be married and have kids. Because as you can't find a situation that you can relate to add to this topic to kind of see what we're talking about or what we're trying to
right,
explain and talk about because you dealt with people who were married.
right. Either married or
But
dating, but
I
they never had
right,
kids.
right,
So
right. So I'm in a situation where I know the whole spectrum. I know married, unmarried, divorced, never been married. I know the whole spectrum. So there's a lot to be said about marriage. Just by just conversation, just this small, just from the start. That's why I I well, this is what I believe. If you're single with no kids, you should deal with somebody single with no kids.
right,
If you want to have a kid outside of marriage, then you have to deal with someone who has a kid and try to make things work. Is no need for a single person with no kids to deal with someone with kids.
right. And I think we talked about this last week.
That's right.
A lot of men that are single don't want to really raise somebody else's kids. That's not their job. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you can't have kids or with some, outliers,
Yeah,
things like
yes,
that,
yes,
of
yeah,
course,
right.
there's an exception to the rule. But the typical rule of thumb, you want to be with somebody that you can lay the foundation, have kids, grow old, all the whole kit and caboodle with. Like, you don't really want to go into a relationship having to deal with a baby daddy, the
Right.
father
Our
that the
baby mother,
or baby mother,
our
that too.
baby mama.
Yeah. So
You adding variables to your relationship that you don't necessarily, no, it's hard enough to make a relationship work
right.
because it takes work to make a relationship work.
Agreed.
But you adding variables that is unnecessary and it's going to make it harder. It to make it work is going to be a miracle because even when you have a relationship based on common ground, it still doesn't work. So now you're adding variables to it. I, I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying it's going to be harder to do so.
Right. And even then, if there's ever an option, not even an option, if there's ever an incidence of physical violence like that,
Oh,
that is, I mean, well, I don't even know why you would. I understand why some people may do it. It's like a toxic
tell me
relationship.
why,
That
please.
because it's that psychological thing. They've been beaten up psychologically, and it makes someone think that there's no one else out there that's going to treat them better. So it's like that abusive girlfriend and or boyfriend. And it's just like
Mhm.
berating you, beating you up, and you're just like, well, there's no one else for me to go to. So you keep going back. Like, you get away, but then they do that. Oh, I've changed, and you go back, and then you end up being in the same situation again, and it's like a yo-yo effect, essentially, where you just can't get away because you've been trained like in your mind, maybe subconsciously, where you're just like you're just thinking about it all the time. But like as far as the physical option, like once that happens, like you really shouldn't be there. Like that, what's that saying? Go fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like after the fool me, it's like typically. And I know I have friends that say this, that have like sisters and things like that. They've always told me if somebody was to raise a hand to their sister, they'd probably go to jail because they're going to stop. They're going to put the paws on that dude who put hands on their sister. And I was just like, hey, I don't blame you. I don't blame you because one, that's family, and then two, like that's what you're taught as a man to be a protector, and that's your sister. So that's like So it's a big thing with that. But yeah, you shouldn't tolerate any type of like assault whatsoever in a relationship. Like,
And absolutely, I agree. And I have a sister, and I love her to death. And she will protect me from hurting somebody else. So she probably wouldn't even tell me
mm.
because she know what I might do.
Oh yeah, I understand it, but I'm saying
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if they found out,
Oh yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
it's open
So
season.
so so you when it comes to that, don't put your loved ones or yourself in a position. And I know this bad boy, and I said this more than one podcast. This bad boy, oh, I like the bad boy. That's attractive. They're gonna the same one, the same ones you pick that you think is a bad boy, he's tough. He's gonna be tough with you. And he put hands on you, he's still bad. Nothing's changed. You didn't tame the beast. You didn't tame this guy or this person. You still in this situation. You're in a toxic situation. Somebody put hands on you once. I can guarantee you he's gonna do it again. Got away with it once. Why not?
Right.
So so be careful what you ask. And you know who you're picking. You could see reactions to situations. You see situations that are simple, uh being cut off in the streets or something like that, and it goes to a certain level, then you kind of know who you're dealing with. So just be careful about that. And like you said, you know, one time, one and done. But don't pick the person that you're gonna get that one.
Right.
Why do that? Why even put yourself in that situation? Pick somebody in that is respectful, that you could grow with, you could talk to, you could de-escalate a situation with common sense and not go to to another level where somebody's or you know physically or someone's life is taken in a situation. Why even put yourself in a situation where you know this person has the potential of going to that level?
Mm.
Why do it?
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not, like I said, that may go back to what I was saying before about
Mhm.
the psychological thing, because you look at all the good that the person may have done, but then that one instance, it's like, well, maybe it won't happen again, kind of thing. Like,
It will happen again.
yeah, of course. And then once that happens, I mean, the expectation at that point is just like, am I going to say something that may trigger something that is going to come back and affect me physically or mentally or whatever the case may be. So it's like you're walking on thin ice at that point. Like once it happens that first time, you just don't know what it is that's going to set that person off, and that may just be case of that person not being emotionally stable on their end. Maybe they have some pent up aggression from something that may have happened to them before, but that's some work that they would have to seek out on their own. You can't really push somebody to go get help. You're not going to be able to help somebody that doesn't want to get help. So that that
And you, very good point. Very good. When we do more research on a research paper than we do on something that pertains to our life, why not do your homework? I've heard of so many instances where someone was killed, and this guy got a long track record of being violent, and I don't understand why that other person, the female didn't know that
mm,
that person was in jail, or he's been in jail for a long time. He just got out of prison. And I'm not knocking people change. I'm not saying people don't change, but do you want to put yourself in that situation to find out did that change occur? And especially when you got kids that are not his
right.
involved. I, I I think if you spend you the person's you as a person is worth the research to find out before you commit and allow this person in your life in a certain way. You need to do your research. You need to do your homework.
Mm,
To put them around your kids, to put them around your family, to put them around you and put your life on the line. You need to do your research.
yeah, and I think
Research everything. They check our credit before they loan you money. They check their background. Come on, Tech.
no,
Say it.
I don't know, to be honest with you, because I haven't.
No, but you know what I'm saying is right.
No,
Come
I
on.
understand. Yeah, I agree with you. What you're saying is correct. Yeah, but I think out of now that I look back on it, there's been one person I came across that willingly said that they do background checks on people that they
There's
that
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, oh yeah, and I was like, when I thought about it, of course, this was younger. I was like,
Mhm.
that's kind of weird. So they as a young person, you're looking like, why would you do that? That's kind of like stalkerish kind of thing. You running a background check on somebody, you trying to know their whole history. But now that I'm older and things have progressed the way they have, and things have happened, it's just like, oh, okay, maybe that now it makes sense why you'd want to do that for those reasons. So it was just they were just ahead of their time, I guess, so to speak, when they were talking about it, because when you hear it, you're just like, when you're in your 20s, just why are you running a background check on people in the 20s? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, we're all
You know why? You know why? Because you got some, and I'm going to say I'm going on the line and say that your friend
mm.
not going to try to sit there and save that person.
Oh, I would assume so. I mean, I
Right.
don't I
So
don't know now, but like I said, this was back in my I don't know now, but this is
that's right.
back in
You do the
my
research.
20s.
You do the research. You got a choice.
Right.
Hey, and when you find out, oh, what makes you the savior? So, do you think that you should be the one to try to save somebody?
No.
And how far are you willing to go
No.
to do
No.
that?
No. Not worth the time, the effort, or the heartache to to try and do all that. It's not worth it. Your time is limited. Why would you want to waste it on somebody who doesn't want to help themselves? And so, like,
Really?
sorry, not sorry, but it's just no. But if they
And you bet with your life.
potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And so it's just nope. Like, I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit harder for us as men to do that, because we're always trying. Not all of us, but I think it's a little bit harder for. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's both sides. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's.
Mhm.
It depends. I guess it depends on what you may have went through together, or maybe you knew the person in high school and you're like, oh, he, and then you go off to
It used to
college.
be good.
Yeah, something like that, or whatever the case may be. Like, I know I've known people to get back with people they used to go to high school with and stuff, and then they completely changed. Just like, whoa, what happened to you? So I don't really know the reasoning behind it, but I know both sides typically tend to do that because I know from a man's perspective, it's like you see the potential in that person, but
Absolutely.
it's just like you keep trying to make them realize, and it's just like, okay, at some point it ends up being a breaking point. And I think it's the same thing for the opposite side. Like they see, or maybe they just either it's the potential they see in that person, or it's something that they've been through with that person for a long time. They've been together for so long, and it's like I said, that yo-yo effect. Like they may be aware that that person is toxic or whatever the case may be, but they've been through so much with that person that they can't leave. So 'cause I've seen the latter. I've seen the latter where the
Oh
person.
yeah, I've
I've
seen
seen it, and
both.
it's just like, okay, and I'm sitting there just like, you know what? I'm not even gonna get in that because I don't want to be a part of it, and I don't want to deal with the headache.
The thing I look at it in a way, it's hard enough to save yourself
Mm,
in certain situations, in certain things, certain um, events. Now you're trying to save somebody else
right.
through their turmoil. Uh, Stop it. Stop it. Save yourself. And it's not being selfish. It's hard enough to save yourself. And especially if you got kids. You got kids, you have to maintain, you have to be strong. Adding another kid doesn't make it easier. And this is a grown kid. You can't say. Uh, what I'm saying is they have to save themselves. They have, and the only way they can stay saved is if they save themselves.
Right. I mean, they have to be willing to put in the work.
That's
So
right.
that's all it comes down to. Like you can push and prod and everything like that, but that's
That's right.
9 times out of 10 that's gonna end up making them resent you in some kind of way. Come back to bite you in the butt later.
And when you cut them off, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
They might come back. They're going to come back while you move on. Well, no, not that you moved on. You tried to move on. You can't cut it. You can't cut that string.
Right.
They're always there. So be careful. This is your life. This is your life. This is your peace that you have here. I don't know what happens on the other side. I've never been there. But here, right now, this is your peace. You have to take control of it. Know that it's not here forever and enjoy it while you can. You can't save everybody. You can love them from afar, but once you bring them in your home, it's a totally different story. Now you have to deal with that.
Yep. Yeah, indeed. And I think
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. I'm
no, I
sorry.
was
Go
about
ahead.
to say I think some issues derive from when that person gets in the home, like you do that whole move-in thing, and then
Oh,
you may have
playing
that
house. Playing house.
exactly.
Say
You
it.
you may
Say it,
have
Tat.
that you may
Say
have
it.
that talk about like marriage, kids, everything like that. And if
Playing house.
the husband, well, not the husband, if the guy is, yeah, whatever. The
Okay.
guy says, if the guy says they don't want kids, then it kind of just puts a spin on thing. For some reason, I feel like when the guy says they don't want kids, the woman wants kids even more. I don't know. I
Absolutely.
I
I,
don't know.
I, I really believe that too. I
I
no,
don't.
no, I look at that.
It
You
just
know what?
seems
Funny you say. I never even thought about it until you just said it. You're right. I believe that.
yeah, it just seems like that.
To some extent. I'm not saying
Yeah, not 100% across the board, but I I've seen they weren't in a relationship, but it was my friend, good looking dude. Like he had
Mhm.
this one girl that was just wanted him like salt on the peanut, 24/7. He's just like, I don't want kids, and she just that just made her like want to be more. I was just like, yo, relax. Like he just said he don't. The man said he don't want kids. Like why like he said we could be cool, whatever, but I don't want kids. But they I
Oh,
don't.
why?
I mean, I have an idea why. I have a couple
Tell me,
ideas. I
tell
have
me
a
why.
couple ideas why.
Tell me
Uh,
why.
well, the first one is that she didn't want to let that person go and then potentially have like something down the road. She wanted to keep him around so that way it's like catching a prize fish, I guess, would be
Mhm.
I guess the analogy you can look at. That's basically the first thing, and the secondly, she might have been looking for a check. I don't know. Because yeah, like it's totally different seeing it from like a perspective of someone who has potential to be like a great athlete or make money compared to an average person. Not saying that. I guess an average person on the street or whatever. But when you're hanging out with your crew and you have people in there that are athletes and you all hang out around each other, it's different seeing how they interact or how the interaction goes between them and women compared to your other friends who are just regular guys who don't really do anything. They're cool as hell, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
they don't do anything else. Like the other people are already known around campus, like, oh
Right.
yeah, they play sports, we know them, and then you're hanging out with the other guys, like, who are you? So it's just really interesting seeing that dynamic and when those interactions happen, just sitting back and seeing how things unfold. It's just really interesting.
Oh yeah. And I get that. They look it's both of those perspectives. I see it. I see it as well. But when a man says he doesn't want to have kids, I see that it amps up the prospects that the woman wants to have.
Hmm.
Uh, I could be wrong. Hey, I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again. But I think that a lot of times when guys don't want to have kids because they know how they want to have kids, they talk to that female, say, hey, I want to be in the home. I want to be there. I want to help raise the kid. So they set the stage in a sense. They told the innermost secrets in a sense of what they want, how they want to be there for their kid.
Hmm.
And that's attractive to women. That's very attractive. He might not want it in this situation, but if I gave him one, this is probably what I'm going to get. So that doesn't help their situation of her understanding that we need to be more clear on what we're saying. We don't want to have a kid with you. I, I'm just being straightforward to the point,
Right.
point blank. And and if you tell her that, leave her alone. If she's not the one that you want to have a kid with, and you have to say that, you need to let her go and find a person for her. You don't need to be, you know, testing the waters
Right.
anymore. Let it go because you know where it's going. But you need to let them know, yes, this is what I want. I want to be there for my kid. I want to be, you know, father, sitting at the dinner table, talk about their day, over a nice meal.
Mhm.
But I don't see you at the other end of the table. Let's just keep it real, be honest, put it out there. It's not going to stop them from doing it.
Right.
But what I'm telling the person, the man, you have to stop it. You're gonna have to move on.
It's easy. It's always easier said than done. It's all. It's
I know.
always.
I
It's
get
all.
it. I
It's
get
always
it.
easier said than done. That's why. I'm sorry. That's why I'm laughing. Uh, because like I said, I've seen this situation play out, and it's just eh, sometimes there's been like one occasion where it's worked out, where that persistence is paid off for her, and they end up being a great couple, whatever the case may be. And then there's another occasion where it just derailed into a whole bunch of chaos and mayhem. It's just like, okay, well, let's keep it moving. I mean, I understand why, as a guy, you kind of stayed there. As a guy sees certain things certain ways, I understand that. But no, homie.
It's the cost. Is the cost worth
No.
it? And it could cost that young lady her life.
Yeah.
It can cost her life. Are you willing? If that guy, if the guy didn't say, "I want to have a kid with you," he don't want to have a kid with you. And
Right.
if he says he wants to have a kid with you, is he in a position to take care of a kid?
Right. I mean,
So
just
you know where it's going if that's the case, right?
right.
Where's it going, Tat?
It's going where he's not going to be in the. He's going to be out and about doing doing his thing.
And
So
he's trying to lock her down
right,
to him.
right.
He has nothing to offer but to say that he has a kid
Right. And
with her.
you know, it's
Control.
of
Control.
course I figured you were going to take it there.
That's right.
I figured you're going to take it there, but I mean, yeah, there's there's no other way around it to be 100% honest with you. And just looking back on it, I think there's been one instance where I've seen that where the guy really had like nothing to offer, but I don't I don't know from her side what she was potentially thinking, but
You know what she was thinking.
I mean
Hey,
that's it. That's the instance she could be potentially thinking. But like I said, I don't. Maybe she was trying to play the long game and it didn't work out, and so it's really it was really weird at the end of the day, because then it's just like I could tell you didn't want to have the. I could tell talking to him was like you didn't want to go through that, but he was like, "No, I'm lock it down." I was like, "Oh, okay, oh, okay." Like yeah, like having that kid doesn't guarantee that he's going to stay there. Like there's no guarantee about that, and that comes. That's I mean, yeah, they just a lot of that control. But I mean, that of course there's the other spectrum of it. When you have that kid and then you're not there, then she takes you to court and gets your
hmm,
money and that child
she has
support.
control.
Yeah,
She has
yeah,
control.
and that can end up leading you to resent her for the actions that you did.
That's right.
And then once again, that goes back to what you're saying about that potentially, costing somebody their life. There's no insert 25 quarters to 25 cents to continue in that. No, that's it.
That's
You,
right.
so it's just it's
It's a
just
game that nobody should play.
right. Playing the
It's a game that nobody should play. Don't have kids out here in the street. And I'm saying it, and you know, I did.
mhm,
Don't do it. It's not the best way to do it. You need to be married and have a kid. And if you have a kid out here in the street, don't marry somebody or deal with somebody who doesn't have kids. You need to find someone who has kids as well, so that you have the same common ground. You won't have these issues. And if a man says he doesn't want to have a kid, he doesn't want to have a kid. And he feels, based on the system that's in place, that his life is over. So you think he values your life over his? And there might not have been no feelings there for you, but he
Mhm.
loves himself. Come on. Do the math. The math don't lie.
Right. And I think a big part of that, well, circling
Mhm,
back to the control portion,
mhm,
and I hear this a lot, especially amongst athletes, athletes and people with fame and power, that is looked at
mhm.
as a basically financial check. The kid is looked at as a financial check that you're going to get every month, where there's been instances where I've seen the mothers getting like six figures in child support, but spending the money on stuff that it doesn't necessarily
Benefit the child.
benefit the child whatsoever. So that isn't a good look, and I feel like that should be something that's looked at. I don't know if it is now, but I remember maybe not the case. I don't know. I don't really I don't really
I
pay
don't
attention.
see it. I don't see it. I see.
But we don't hear that
You
often.
remember? You remember the run where they were talking about deadbeat dads?
Right.
You can hear that all the time, all the time. It was nothing
I
about the fathers that were doing everything right and the mothers who were blowing the money.
right. But at the same time, we're not seeing a whole lot of instances of people, with residual, like large amounts of income, going through those instances anymore. Like we have those one-offs every couple of years where it's been exposed, the person's being exposed for not, doing what's supposed to be done when you have that support. I understand what you're saying as far as the deadbeat dads and the top, basically screaming at the top of the mountain, kind of thing. But with this other instance, it really isn't talked about, because I feel like the people, that have those, the money and things like that, they have those arrangements to where that's already discussed, be either via contract, or they have some kind of contract set up with the person or something like that. Like there's no, you can't tell me there isn't like the backside of fame, where people aren't having arrangements set up for them to meet people maybe outside of marriage or something like that, where they pay a person X amount of dollars to just be on the hush hush and not say anything, or whatever the case may be. You can't tell me that that doesn't happen. Uh so I think that's one of the major reasons why you're not seeing it a lot from a guy's perspective, because I feel like a lot of times it's not going to be looked at as heavily as it is from a woman's perspective. Because, like I said, we had that one instance where it was exposed that she wasn't spending the money how you're supposed to be spending it.
Absolutely.
But then after that, it's nothing else. So I don't know. It just feels like, I feel like those people have their, what's the what they have their T's crossed and the I's dotted on the back end. Like you may hear more of it if we go to people around our level of
Right,
income and
right.
things like that.
People, the people who it's going to affect the most.
Right,
You know, they might give up millions, but they're still millionaires,
right,
right? So we're not millionaires. The average person is not a millionaire.
right,
So every dollar matters. So when you take a dollar and get anything for it, no compensation, no tax write-offs, nothing, and in cases, and this is what women gotta realize when it comes to the man, that it's all in your favor. And the guy knows that. So it is some, animosity. It is anger when they're put in a position where they can lose their license if they run short, if they lose their job. They don't care if you lose your job. They said you got a kid to be responsible for, and and the kid is used as leverage. It's been instances where women say, the guy's doing the right thing, taking care of the kid, off the books, off the system, and that woman threatens to put them on the system just because they know how the system works and what position that puts that guy in. Even though the guy's doing what he's supposed to do, to take
Yeah.
care of his kids and going beyond, but they threaten to put them on the system because they know how the system works and it doesn't work for the person
I,
outside of it.
I feel like that's more looked at in minority communities compared to other communities because that's seen as a way a potential come up for the person that has the kid or whatever the case may be, which is kind of disappointing. I feel like there's not anything that's taught to help those people. Well, maybe not even in those situations, but just they aren't given the tools to progress past that point because it feels like that's a cycle that is seen. Like even when you're raised by a single mom, whatever the case may be, single parent, like your mother, father, they're gonna talk about the other person, good, bad, or indifferent. And if you're a daughter of a single mom, you're looking at that like, oh, my mom raised me by herself, my dad wasn't around, this is what she
Absolutely.
went through. You're taught all those. You have that talk when the birds and the bees and all that stuff, and that I'm pretty sure that's incorporated in that birds and bees talk. Um, Maybe not as much as a son, but maybe more so for a daughter. It's like, hey, you have the potential to have a kid. These are your options. Like all that stuff is
Absolutely.
taught, and it's also taught in school as well. It's like these are your options if you have a kid, whatever, whatever. So this stuff is automatically programmed into the youth as they're growing up. So it's just like, well, if I have a kid now, I have a way out. Essentially, I have an extra source of income or whatever the case may be. um
So, but
and
I don't
even
want
though
them to think like that.
I get it, but and even though they still teach you, practice safe sex and all that, that just in one ear and out the other. Because of course, when you're
But
young,
it's birth control.
when you're young, you're not thinking about that because
Absolutely.
we're on the basis of being immortal, doing whatever we can take on the world. Which I understand that's part of being young and getting growing up. You're going to have that phase where you feel like you can do anything and pretty much say what you want to say, even though it might not be the best thing to say. But they don't. It's not looked at like, oh, that's going to come back to bite me 20 years down the road when I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. Well, it is now compared to back then. Like there was things that were said that wouldn't be dug up back then like they are now, because with technology you have those things that are permanent. Like you say it and it's out there permanently. Somebody can screenshot it and hold it for 20 years waiting for you to mess up and be like, hey, I got some dirt
Sure.
on you. You're gonna give me this. You're gonna give me this money, or I'm gonna release it to the press or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. It, you're right. But you should not look at kids as security.
Mm. I'm sure that's
Kids,
not. I'm sure it's not looked at it like that. But once they have the kid, it's just like, okay, these are the tools that I was taught in school. Let me use them. And then when they see that check coming in, it's like you're being taught. It's like, oh, I have a kid. Now I'm getting money for this kid. Keep the
you
ball
get
rolling.
tax breaks. You
Right.
get tax breaks. You get things, and you think about it. You got guys out here who got 13 kids, different women, and things like that. but they don't even have a place to stay.
Right.
But you got the 13 women who have kids for them that got a place to stay.
Right.
Because with a child comes certain things that are given to you by the government. Not all, but by the government that house you, food, let me say food, shelter, and it's there. So having a kid for a woman is security. Having a child for a man should be security, but it's put in a position where it's a liability,
Mhm.
and it shouldn't be put that way. The kids are a blessing. They didn't ask to come here.
Right.
It took two people, two adults, get together, make a decision, and it was a beautiful child produced. But they should raise that child accordingly. Hey, like, do not because the government's taking care of them. That don't mean you're not responsible, brother. Since you're responsible, you need to do your part to take care of your responsibility. The woman, don't bash that man because he ain't got a place, or not let him be in the child's life because you got a house that the government gave you, and you got food because the government gave you, money to buy food, and look down on him. You picked him. That was the choice you made. So he didn't do anything wrong, and you shouldn't look at him any different when y'all got together. So the thing is the most important part is that child. And I'm gonna tell you the importance of a child too. The child will make you do superhuman things that you wouldn't have done if you didn't have them. If you're a responsible parent, it'll make you accomplish a lot of things that you wouldn't have done if you were just by yourself. I'm just saying that's how it can benefit someone, and that's how it should benefit the parents, even if you're together or separated. It should inspire you to make sure your kid lives a better life than you do.
Right. And isn't it like part of it legacy as well? I mean, isn't that
That's right.
another,
That's
you
right.
want to leave behind a legacy of, well, a part of you essentially for that next generation,
Generation.
the generation after. But yeah, you did harp on something that was pretty key, is that you make the selection. It's not
That's right.
predetermined or anything like that. You're basically going to the meat market and be like, yeah, I want choice cuts right here, this, that, and the third. You're not giving a lotto ticket and be like, hey, this is what you get and have fun. Kind of.
That's right.
So it's really something that I think it should have more thought behind it instead of being the dude. Because
Absolutely.
I see it. I'll tell you this. I've seen this
Absolutely.
where they look at the person in VIP,
Mm.
or I see it so well, not anymore because I haven't been
Right, right,
out to a club in a while, but back
right.
a couple years ago, look, you're in VIP because I've been in VIP. I'm minding
Right.
my own business, minding my own
Right.
business in VIP. There's been so many people that would come up to me and try to figure out what I did, even though I'm there as a friend of the person
Right.
who is holding it down of the VIP. Like,
Right.
y'all need to chill out. Y'all need to chill out. Don't focus on that person in VIP. I'm telling you. I mean, you can if you want to do whatever you want to do, but
Right.
don't fall for the person in VIP because they may just be there just by circumstance, or whatever the case may be, and then you fall for them and you find out that person doesn't have anything going for them,
Right.
or something. They're hiding something or something like that.
Ordinary guy. You know. Right. Or you hide. That's right. Hide something.
Right.
So you pick. Be man or woman enough to accept that.
Right.
Yeah. And you make a mistake, you pick the wrong one, you suffer the consequences. But that doesn't allow you to take their life or make their life harder. It's still focusing on the kid. Make sure, and I think where the problem comes in is when the focus gets off the child and it gets personal. It's between the two adults.
Right.
If the focus is on the kid, everything will work out fine.
Right.
I think the focus is on the kid, everything will work out fine. Be no animosity or anything. If that man is focused on the kid and the mother's focused on the kid, you're gonna do the best for the kid. But if you focus in on each other, kids is whatever.
Yeah, because isn't it like you'll say, what was it? I think I know he was joking, but I feel like there's some truth behind it. When
Mhm.
I think it was Kevin Hart, he was talking about when you're driving the van and she's
Mhm.
sitting there getting on your nerves, and you sitting there closing the car door, but you're cursing her out the entire time you're closing the car door instead of just trying to be there for the kid or whatever the kid. There's a lot of truth behind a lot what comedians
Right.
say. And I don't know per
That's why
say if
it's
that's
funny. That's
yeah.
why it's
I don't know if that's exactly what he was going for, but I think that does hold some weight as far as like you're so you're frustrated. Yes, I understand you're frustrated, you're upset, you don't necessarily want to be around her or whatever the case may be, but if you're not there specifically for her,
her.
if you're separated, you're not
That's right.
specifically there for her.
Separate.
You're there for the kid to make sure they have a good time or whatever the case may be. Like, so, I mean, it's
Just like the
easy,
guy bringing a McDonald's meal. He
right?
wasn't bringing it for every
Every
kid
all
in the
the other kids,
neighborhood.
yeah, he wasn't bringing for the other kids that she had. He wasn't bringing it for the other kids that she had. Wait, am I trying to make sure I'm trying to say
Before
this
him.
right? He was bringing it for the kid that he had with her. So
Her.
it was just a really awkward situation in that
Right.
one. I was just like, I mean, I really don't see
Very
where she
simple, but said a lot. It's
right.
very simple, but it said a lot. You can't expect, and this is why it's so important to deal with someone in your same level. And, if you have a kid, why would you mess with somebody who doesn't have a kid? It's not an even playing field. You're not equally yoked. Let's You need to be dealing with somebody who has kids because the
or
responsibility he has responsibilities, you have responsibilities
or make sure that person doesn't want
outside the
kids
home.
or something like that. You gotta
That's right.
like
That's right. You go ahead.
there's no. I was just saying, or make sure the person doesn't want to
Absolutely.
have kids or lay the ground. I don't know. That's just a. It's just when they're younger. When the kids are younger, it's a lot harder to. I would say to talk to. Well, when you're single, it's a lot harder to talk to somebody who has kids that are younger compared to somebody that has kids that are older and can take care of themselves. That's where I would. That's where I would tag on to what you were saying as far as your point. Like if you're talking to somebody that has kids that are maybe like in their 11, 12, 13, that old enough to somewhat take care of themselves, it's a little bit different to
That's
deal
right.
with somebody like that compared to somebody that has kids that have to go to daycare or something like that, or you have to get a babysitter or try to make plans around certain dates or whatever the case may be. So there's a caveat specifically to that portion of what you're saying, but overall, yes, I would agree as far as try to make sure you're dealing with someone who is on the same playing field as you are and not someone who's single and then because a lot of times if you're single and you're dealing with someone who has kids, you're not going to waste a lot of time on that. Like you're going to want to do things, and if they can't do it, then you're just like, well, why am I wasting
Right.
my time
Right.
trying to talk to you?
Because that person has to get permission
Right.
from somebody else. Because that kid belongs to somebody else as well. You can't just take that kid and do what you want. You can't just go out of
Well,
town
no, it's not even so
with
much
that
getting
kid.
permission. I'm just saying like they got to
But
get a babysitter, you know, just to even go out. Like you got to get a babysitter. If the babysitter can't make it, you got to cancel plans. And then the person's like, well, I can't do what I want, you know, can't do the spontaneous stuff that people like to do because that's the one thing that I hear a lot. Oh, be spontaneous. It's like, well, if I
but
try to be,
say,
but,
say
but
you can.
exactly. But it's like, how can I be spontaneous when you're taking care of a child that you have to, you know, you have to be responsible around, essentially. So I don't know. I feel like
No,
this.
I just want to throw another variable in there. You marry that person with a
Mhm,
child. Okay. Now you got a father who's outside of that house of
mhm,
that child. So now you're raising a child that's not yours. You're single, you don't have kids. You met a woman who has kids. Now you raising, you paying your bills together, you building together and everything with this child. Then you got a man telling you you can't what you can and can't do in your house when it comes to his kids.
mhm. I don't know if I've ever seen the
But
instance like
but
that.
that
I hear what you're
happened.
saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I've ever seen an instance like that. I have seen like a one off where
Mhm.
the the guy that she married, like him and the baby daddy become like bro. They basically like are bros or whatever,
Friends.
the
Right.
friends.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And then that just changes the whole dynamic. But I haven't seen to where usually when the father will have visitation rights every so often. That's when the kid goes, you know, with the dad or whatever for X amount of time. But outside of that, usually the kid just goes wherever the mom and that stepfather or wherever they want to go at that point. So you don't really hear from that father on his input per se.
Uh-huh.
So and that's where I'll just leave it because I like I said I haven't been here long enough to see everything on
Right, right, right. But no. But I've seen that situation, what you just said, and it's a good relationship. It's real good.
Mm,
It's real good. But do you- but that's not the norm.
right. And that's what I was
It's
saying.
real
Like
good, but it's not the norm.
that's what I'm saying. Like the father has the visitation rights, but outside of that, they don't really. They may talk to their kid on the phone, but they don't really say anything to the
Right.
stepdad or anything like that as far as what they can and can't do because usually it's the mother that's laying the ground rules for. Usually it's the mother that's putting the stepfather
The
in
mother
check.
said, right. That's
Yeah,
right. It's usually the mother who sets the groundwork
right.
and
For
everything.
for
Sets everything.
everything. So it's just like, all right.
And this is what I want a single person, a single male or a single mother marrying a man with male. So now you got an outside person calling in to your home. You have no, you're not calling into that person's home and affecting that other person's home at all.
Mhm.
This person is coming into your home. That's why I'm saying the importance of being. And I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but when you I'm married, the woman I'm married to has a kid. This guy is calling into my home, checking on his kids, which he has the right to do.
Right.
That's those are his kids. But it's not me calling to his house. His house is at peace.
If there
And
is one at all.
if it's one, but you understand what I'm saying? He's
Mhm.
at peace. He's not interjected into my life.
Right.
I'm not interjecting in his life up to me. He's interjecting in my life.
Right. And I mean that goes back. I hear what you're saying, and I think that goes back to setting the ground rules before you even go down that road. Like
Right?
you would hope that your wife and the ex were amicable, and there's no turmoil or anything. Like it's like, hey, be mature about it. Whatever, go your separate ways. Whatever, you know, on the back end, whatever y'all talked about, whatever. I'm coming into this situation totally neutral, but my loyalties do lie with my wife. you know, like my wife and then, you know, the child that's there. So, and that's all you could hope for, really. That's really
I'm
all you
just
could,
saying,
that's really all you could
marry
hope for.
single, marry a woman, marry a man who doesn't have kids. You're equally yoked. If you have kids, do not. And I put this on the person who has kids as well. Do not inject your life onto someone else who doesn't deserve it. If you really care about that person, if she's single or he's single, let him marry somebody who's single. Let him enjoy building something together with someone in a marriage. What it's and I'm not trying to belittle kids because I love kids. It's not baggage, but it's baggage to the person who's coming into a situation that they're not in. And and the thing is, you know, I just don't think it's right. That's my opinion. Some people would beg different. Please comment. Please, I look forward to listen to your comments, and we hopefully we can address them in a later um, podcast. But you know, the security side of it, I still believe it's definitely security for women. It's a liability for men based on the system that's in place. But I think that men are responsible to take care of their responsibility. If you have a kid, you need to be responsible.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're taught day one, but you know, that
Right?
we've talked about this enough in
Yeah, right,
another
right.
episode,
But
but
I enjoy the conversation, but you know, it's just equally yoked. Let's
right.
make it like
Right. Well, we hope you all enjoyed today's little episode. Yeah.
yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed
I hope
today's
we get
episode.
there's a lot of feedback because you know I need to grow and I always got room to grow and feedback. You know, if I get good feedback, it'll help.
You just inflate
Oh,
his ego. That's what he's trying to say. Give him good feedback so he can feel good about himself. But yeah. We hope you all enjoyed today's episode, and we'll be back next week. I don't think we have anything coming up. We have some guests coming up soon. I want to say in like a week or two.
years. Yeah.
But outside of that, that's pretty much it. I think the next people we have up would be some DJs, and then that'll be a whole nother. That
Right, because you did the
yeah,
DJ.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. We're entering my another one of my realms exactly. But you all have a great rest of your week when you watch this, and we'll see you next Monday. Until then, we're out of here. Later, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone.